Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comics Della Morte, episode 82, Rabbit's Badass. I literally forgot the title.
Rabbit's Badass Song.
Ass Song. Yes, Rabbit's Badass Song.
Gotta love it.
So, Ronnie Gunter, Crimson Owl Comics, Jason Alexander, Fogbreaker Studios, and our guests, the creators of Rabbit's Badass Song. So, everybody, introduce yourself and let the audience, whoever is going to watch now live or after credits, like where you're from and how you got started in this cool ass genre.
Ladies first.
My name is Chastity. I'm the co-writer of Rabbit's Badass Song. We also did another horror one-shot called Pop Singer.
Oh, cool.
Like an Illuminati type story. Pretty much, I have a film background. He has a film background. And we both liked comics. He got me into comics. Mm-hmm. So, of course, like with film stuff, he loved horror. So I started to learn more about horror. And yeah, we just kind of got obsessed with it and kind of incorporated that into the stories we were writing.
Pretty much accurate.
Yeah.
I'm Chris Elston, the other half of the creative team, Rabbit's Badass Song, and the company Flash Delirium LLC. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Background and I have some background in art. I was pretty much self-taught. And same with the film aspect goes. I read a lot of books on how to make films, watched films almost my entire life, and worked on a lot of independent stuff, especially around the Richmond area. There's a great film community here. And we worked on like a lot of just short, small horror films and just different genres. So we learned a lot about this, filmmaking. But that went along with her getting a film degree. But as far as the comic book goes, originally we thought we were going to make films before we did the comic. We always liked the comic books, but we're going more towards the film route just because the community we're around and just us writing screenplays and stuff. Yeah. That was another thing. Chastity, she's very well read, like novels and everything. And I come from reading a lot of comic books and just watch a lot of movies. So we kind of fused those together, developed our style. And again, the stuff we wanted to tell was real visually heavy and like dialogue heavy. So we thought the movie thing was the right way to go. But it's just, even both are expensive, comic books and film. Yeah. But it got to a point where it was taking so long to try to get the budget together to do films. Even if you shoot like a small budget film, like two people, one location, it takes a lot of time. Yeah, money to set up lights and everything. And then even after that, trying to find distribution or people to look at the film versus a comic book, it's faster. It can be a faster process, just getting a team together, getting it made, and just getting people to look at it. It's easy to get people to look at like a 5-page or 20-page book than watch a 2.5-hour movie. It seems that way for independent wise. But yeah, so the rabbit thing, did you want to talk a little bit? You want me to? I don't want to.
You go ahead.
Okay.
You're the better talker.
I was going to say that it's awesome because not just you, but it seems like all the horror comic creators that we've had on the show recently, all of their original comics was originally going to be like a horror movie. That it seems like, and a lot of them had like screenplay backgrounds. But that's what's so great about horror comics is that a lot of the pages are very fast paced and action oriented. That it could play well in a movie, unlike most comic books that are very well and obsessed dialogue wise.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's also a lot cheaper to erase and redraw an explosion than it is to have to retake it 16 times. Exactly.
Right. I can like write a scene of like a guy jumping out of an exploding building. But I just got to get an artist that can draw versus we can't shoot this, so we got to like rewrite this scene.
Yeah, because one of the comic book artists that he wasn't an artist, but he created it. He hired an artist, but he used to work for Troma. And he's like, people used to come to Troma because that was like the starting place you would go for horror movies and everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what happened was, let's go back a little bit. It was like 2014, I think we did Hunt.
I don't remember.
Well, what is say 2014? It was interesting. So before I started like committed doing the comic book thing, we were like we said, we were going to try to do the movie route. So we had a couple different screenplays we were like playing around with. But it's all right. We were going to do like one slasher movie, but we said, all right, before we do the slasher movie, let's go ahead and shoot like a little short, just like a little short, that we can like showcase. You know, just like everybody else, we can showcase this, raise money, all that stuff. And by that time, we've worked on enough things. I've done like little short films like throughout years, you know, stuff nobody's ever gonna see. But you know, it was enough to prepare me to try to shoot an actual, you know, real thing. So we got everybody together and we shot this thing called Hunt. I'll try. I think it may be online. I'm not sure, but it's pretty much a first-person werewolf movie, kind of like Hardcore Henry was. How the whole thing is like a first person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, my whole thing was, all right, we'll do a first-person werewolf. We'll show him as the human and as the werewolf. You'll see him transform as a werewolf to first person. Mm-hmm. So we spent about a couple months on that. We shot it. Mm-hmm. We kind of got like a decent edit. We did a few passes, and so what happened with that? We did it, and like I think we'll wait. It took so long to get it edited that we started doing other things while we're waiting for that to get edited. Yeah. And then it's like we started working on other people's stuff, and then we went back and looked at it and said, this is all right. And I said at that time, it took almost 2 years just to get this 10-minute little thing edited. I could have done so much more. So he said, all right, let's go ahead, let's reevaluate things. And let's go ahead and do the comic book thing.
But we had a lot of fun doing the practical.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing the practical thing.
Oh, yeah.
And we do want to eventually go back to making movies again at some point. But right now, the comic book thing just kind of took, the main thing. But so right before we did Rabbit, it's all right, same thing. So we're not gonna try to do that first. Let's go ahead, let's make something small, like a little 10-page thing that we can just make our own and kind of put out there for free, because we never intended to try to sell anything at first. I said at this point, nobody knows who we are, so we got to show people that we can do this.
Right.
So the story she told you about Pop Singer, that was our first thing. Ironically enough, Pop Singer was a story I was gonna try to do as another short film, and that's pretty much a take on the Illuminati. You know, we all heard of conspiracy stories about the singers and celebrities, who like kill people and drink virgin blood and all this silly stuff to be a part of this thing, to be successful, right?
Yep.
So we literally made a story about that. It's about this young girl who wants to be a singer, star, how she pretty much goes through the process, and it's pretty much just a downward spiral. And we literally have like demons and body horror and all this stuff.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a 20. And I'll send you that one too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that.
Also, the movie too, the short film. That'd be great.
Oh yeah. And there's still possibilities for it, but it's in there. But that we figure out how to make that work into the Rabbit thing. Mm-hmm. So the plan was, all right, when we finally got Pop Singer together, we said, all right, whoever we want to kind of keep using the same people. So we said that'd be a good test. So whoever worked out for Pop Singer, we would bring them along for Rabbit, because we already had the Rabbit thing kind of done as well.
It was cooking already. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So. But I'm trying to keep this in order, but going to the Rabbit thing. So Pop Singer was kind of like written up. The Rabbit thing, it took us about 10. We worked on Rabbit for 10 years. Even back when we were like making the film, we kind of had the idea, and it started as a joke, because what Rabbit was originally, it's a book called Brer Rabbit. It's an old children's book. Yeah. About the Briar Patch stuff. And there's some controversies with it, about what it is. That was fascinating me. Yeah. And if you remember, Disney, they made a version of it called Song of the South.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the 70s, Ralph Bakshi, who did the animator, he did Lord of the Rings, he did Hobbit, he did Cool World, he did Fritz the Cat. He did his own version of that. He did a parody / modern adaptation of Song of the South, which was adaptation of Brer Rabbit. So his was called Coonskin. And it was literally just a blaxploitation out there thing.
Right, yeah.
And I saw
no more tongue in cheek is it, right?
So I looked at all this stuff. I said, I said, why don't why don't we do this? We'll make our own version of it, but we'll take it even further than what they did. We'll actually make like a guy who wears the mask, black who wears the mask, and it literally just kind of went from there. It's all right, it's totally tongue-in-cheek subway. He wears a black face mask, and so we'll give him like, oh, he have a white girl from Snow Bunny, ha ha ha. And then it kind of went from that to originally he was going to be like a villain. But the more we start writing him, nah, he's better than that. So why don't we make him an anti-hero, and we'll pretty much have him in a world of superheroes and other crazy stuff. But but the first story, we want to get people familiarized with him, so we'll keep it very grounded, and just kind of tell you his backstory. That's why the first 12 issues more or less a Southern crime revenge story, but there are hints of the superhero and the more fantastical world in there. It's definitely like a Marvel DCS universe, but it's told from his perspective. Yeah. And it keeps going from there. That's how Rabbit.
And it's a lot gorier.
Yes.
It's a lot gorier than
it definitely plays off like The Boys and The Watchmen, those type of things.
It's like a horror Dolomite almost.
Right.
Exactly. Even like his mask, like the rabbit mask, when I was drawing it out, my inspiration, I'm a big Jason Voorhees fan. I love like the hockey mask and how, depending on which version of Jason, like, you can't see the eyes and stuff. So that's all right. He has to have like that kind of horror mask, but the swagger and coolness like a Slipknot guy. How the rock stars with the mask. So like all that kind of played into creating who he is. Because he doesn't wear costumes. He's like a guy. He's a guy. You know what I'm saying? Right. But he always wears cool, flashy suits and high tops. I mean, he could wear anything. The mask is the character. The clothes doesn't really matter.
It's an iconic image.
Yeah,
that you're creating.
And then like even Snow Bunny, she's the same way. She, we got to double down on her too. You know what I'm saying? Because we're playing to a stereotype, but we're not playing to a stereotype. So she wears like the cowgirl stuff. She has like the long red hair. But yeah, she could switch it up too. So they're total polar opposites visually, but they work together. Yeah, same way. So yeah,
very cool. So I don't want to take you too far off topic, but I have to ask a question, and it's a question that I don't get to ask a lot of folks who are on here that really get it. And a lot of Black folks in our community, I shouldn't say a lot, but a lot of the creators that I know of are very anti-Black trauma in comics. Mm-hmm. I'm not that way. I feel like it's important. I feel like that all these things are real and they happen. And I feel like that if we have a way to create with that, even as a tool, I don't see a problem with it. I feel like it should be something that is discussed in a more, because the worst thing that we can do in a comic is still more palatable than the things that really happen. So how did you decide to like just step into it fearlessly and just say, I'm going to hit the gas and I'm going to do it because I know it's going to work? I totally feel like as soon as I read a description of your book, I'm like, oh yeah, like I knew you got it. Right. And not to be funny, as soon as I read the description, I was like, okay, this creative team has a Black person on it. Because you just know. You just know. And so it was like, I didn't really need to look you up much. I knew the questions I wanted to ask you, and that's like the main one, because I have a few stories that I have very grim visuals that work in the story, but we market ourselves, right? Like, and so sometimes it is hard to know, am I marketing or am I telling a story that is going to alienate? But I don't want to have that hesitation. If I know something is going to work, I want to use it, especially when it comes to things that are, for lack of a better term, race related. Like, I hate the regular terms because I feel like it's so much more complex than that. But like, where do you know that I have a story that I want to tell and damn the torpedoes? Like, people are going to like it or they're not. And the discomfort is not only implied, but in my case, it's intended. Like, the discomfort is intended. So where do you go and say, you know what, I'm just going to lean all the way into this. I'm going for it.
Do you want to?
I mean, well, for one is like what happened to us when we were walking. I mean, this is in Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, we've had our issues.
We've walked down the street and I've been called a N-word lover, like out in public.
In Richmond.
It happens. It's
not in Richmond. I could believe that anyway. Now I'm joking.
but it happens. That's real life, and there's less of it, but it exists.
Absolutely, it exists.
The thing about it is we were worried about people thinking that this was going to be some type of like racial story, but actually, like, we're just giving you his backstory, what made him him, the trauma that made him who he is.
Totally.
And past that first 12 issues, it's got nothing to do with that. It changes completely.
Well, I feel like that's the case. Like, who we are is who we are. And the experiences we have usually don't come from who we are as individuals. It's surface assumptions that people make. And so, no, like, they're grim, but hey, Gary, what's up, man? You know, like, look at just what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. Like, we don't know anything about his personality, but we know what happened to him, and we know why it happened. Like, nobody has to tell you why it happened. And so, no, you're absolutely right. This is your story is your story. Like, Blade doesn't have to be a black guy, but he is.
Spawn.
But yes, Al Simmons doesn't have to be back. That's that's hallowed ground for me, because Todd McFarlane got it. Like, Todd McFarlane did that on purpose. And I value that greatly, because in the 90s it was a non-issue because it was never spoken of. And so, no, when Spawn came out, like, it did matter that Al Simmons was black. But it does matter that you have somebody in your story being hung as part of his story. Like, that counts for a lot, even if the story is not a race relation story, because they very rarely need to be. But these things need to be, like, it's okay that I shouldn't say they need to be discussed. They do, but they can exist in our medium as story beats done well. And it seems like you guys get that.
Yeah. So the thing is, when we first, again, like, you know, we worked on Rabbit for like quite a while, for years. And when we first came up with the concept, you know, all right, you know, how did he became to be? Again, it was kind of like a joke. We're big Dave Chappelle fans. You know, the whole thing, you know, you remember Dave Chappelle, so the whole
absolutely
thing. So that mentality went into it. Now, and I hate to use the word woke, but, you know, this woke era that we're in right now, we literally came up with the concept right before that happened. And then when we started seeing that happen, I was like, I hope people don't, you know, because I got to sell, when we sell it to them and tell them, I got to bring up the backstory thing to a point. But I knew the way this thing is written, the way it's designed, when you read it, you're not even going to think about the race and stuff like it's something I'm trying to like feed you. And that's the one compliment we got. If you actually read the book, they say, you know, I've been happy people tell us, Chris, I mean, this is pretty good. Like, we didn't know if it could tell, oh no, it's gonna be another one of those racial hate things. But when you read it, you know, sorry for prime example, I'm not spoiling for you. In the first issue, Rabbit's called the N-word 2 times. The way his character designed, he never acknowledges it. The things he's mad about is never race related. It's always something else. He never even pay attention to anything racist. I think that right there was the main thing. If I had made him, if he was the angry black man, it'd have been a failure. But he never acknowledges that stuff. Nobody really. I mean, you got guys to talk about, but it's not really the point. It's more or less their characteristic than pushing the plot type thing. And that's what I think makes it work. But you know, the other thing is kind of like I guess evolutionary thing. Because once the racial thing just kind of comes because like the backstory and the setting, and we did that for a few reasons. We wanted to show a fantastical world where you got guys that can like move objects with their minds. You got like paranormal creatures and stuff, but you still got racism. You still got real stuff going on. That doesn't go away. You know, and you see a guy that's his world. He grows. He was exposed to humanity, like the worst parts of humanity. That will build him up, and he'll be able to take on all this other crazy worldly stuff. He's seen the bad stuff. Whereas the superheroes, they fighting like supervillains, like, yeah, that's whatever. It's a disconnect. Exactly. It's like us.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what, that's the way we approached it, and that's why
Yep.
I think it works.
Yep.
The cool Rabbit, each storyline is a 12-issue arc. Once we get past the first 12 issues, and you could a new reader could easily pick up the next story and never read the first one and even know about the racist thing. That's just for you guys to really understand and just get familiarized with the character.
This is a superhero universe you're building. Like this is just a universe that will exist with all the facets of a whatever you like.
There's some of the same stuff in this thing, because again, there is an ending to this. Like we know exactly how this whole thing ends. I wish I could tell all y'all. You'd be like, "What in the world? Like, huh?" Like but it's not. It's organic. It makes sense. It's a very slow thing because each little thing has to work, and that's why we're big on character development, because like for us, if you don't care about the characters, the story doesn't work. You gotta want to go on the journey with these guys. So that's why we're taking the time to really, put them through some bad stuff, and you really get to understand them.
Yeah, you just connect. Yeah. I say that about we just watched the first episode of She-Hulk. My family and I did tonight, and what I dig about Phase 4, I know a lot of people think it's kind of slow, but I feel like what we're seeing now is we get to connect with all the characters that showed up at the end of Endgame. Like, what if you had a connection? Like, they could drop the camera in any pocket of these hundreds of superheroes on camera, and you had a connection to them from a story. And like, world building is very daunting. Universe building through characters is even harder to wrap my brain around. So no, I love it. I love the idea of saying, you know what, this is an isolated section of a greater universe that has a purpose. Like, you're going to tell all these stories, or at least you have designs on telling all these stories. Mm-hmm. And here's one pocket that it starts in. 4 years from now, or 4 story arcs from now, people will be into this, and these will be, this episode will be a throwback episode. Exactly. And this might not even be on anybody's radar, and you guys might have their favorite universe. I love talking to creators. Like, that's the thing that keeps me going on this show, because you do comics all the time. I do comics all the time.
Oh yeah.
But it's a very head down world. It's a very head down. You're on a keyboard. You're sketching. I'm at work. I'm selling glasses. I'm thinking about pretty twisted things for how I write while I'm doing something that has absolutely nothing to do with my day-to-day, And so when we get to talk to other creators, particularly other horror creators, because that's what me and Ronnie both do, it's nice to hear, like, it's like this for everybody. Like, the universe is big, and you're creating, like, you start with one grain of sand. And so I don't know. I really appreciate you guys coming on, because, your story reminds me so much of the parts of the Watchmen TV show that I enjoyed, as far as like the backstory of Hooded Justice. Reminds me of all these other little things how do you build a superhero? Yeah. And the superhero is a seed to a greater universe. Like, I think it was a Batman movie that said, like, once the masked heroes show up, the masked villains show up, and then it's a power struggle from then on, as far as like good versus evil. The bigger the evil, the bigger the good has to be. The bigger the good is, the harder the evil comes. And when you fold in horror in that world, like, it's pretty spectacular. Like, it can be a pretty spectacular medium. So,
and that's why anti-heroes go so well with the horror genre too. Like, I always say that he could have been an anti-hero, but one of the greatest horror villains of all time, slashers, is Candyman, because he started out being an innocent man, and he had a tragic ending in his life that turned him into this. So yeah, I really enjoy when you could relate to the killer or the anti-hero on a level. It's like, this person was an innocent person just trying to have a great life, and the world and the hatred that's in it is what turned them into this. So yeah, it's just from like Jason said, it's just a really great idea and story, and I can't wait to read it when you send me the file.
Right on,
Well,
definitely.
thanks.
We look forward to sending it to you, and especially, I don't want to get too much ahead, but like the third issue, we're excited about that one because there's a lot of like throwbacks, homages. I think like I'm a big Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one,
Yeah.
the first one,
The original,
and
yeah.
there's something about something about the chainsaw and the guy in the mask. It just works so well together. So there's definitely bad.
Very unsettling.
Yeah, that movie's just a masterpiece. But there's little things all throughout it. Even but the pop singer thing that does connect to Rabbit. It is the same universe.
Okay.
And,
cool. Okay.
So again, you can read Pop Singer and never have to read the Rabbit and vice versa. But there's gonna be a point where they do connect. They're gonna officially connect, and you go, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? I see where this is going now.
Yep.
So. We try to do that with everything. Because there are going to be, hopefully, if this keeps going, we're going to have other spinoff stories, other characters that it all connects in the Rabbit. But like you said, like everything has to work on its own. We don't ever want to make a story if it's in the same universe where you have to read this thing for this to make sense.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's a bonus that it works out, but everything has to work on its own.
Yep.
For it to really work as a whole, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was watching your episode of I Have Issues with Lucifer Storm.
Oh, you did?
And, I was listening
I gotta
to
get Lucifer on here.
He's a great guy. I recommend.
I know.
Yeah, he's awesome. I did his show too.
Him for a while. We both met in
so
a Discord, and that's where we met Lucifer in a Discord.
Yep.
Yeah, it's my buddy right there.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yes, he is.
What I dug like from what you were explaining about Popstar, it reminded me a lot of the other side of Rosemary's Baby. That was a movie that I just saw a few months ago, maybe even a month ago, because
it was
as
about
a kid, like we were raised on anything. Horror was bad, but anything that had like specifically to do with the devil or witches or anything like that was like ultimate bad. Like that was the opposite of anything that you should ever do. My mom used to always tell me when I left the house, like if you were over somebody's house and you're watching and they start watching The Exorcist, none of my friends would watch The Exorcist because we all were the same religion. She's like, you call us and we come and get you right away. Below that was Rosemary's Baby. I knew nothing about it other than it was a evil movie. But that movie is so on point for 2022. Like this man sold his wife's soul to have the devil's baby to a cult. So that he could start getting acting jobs. Like, and just listening to you talk about Popstar, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is we all tell the same stories. It's just how we tell them. Like we all have fingerprints, but what our fingerprint looks like is what makes it stand out.
Absolutely.
And I love listening to, I don't know if you guys know, you probably do, but there's a series of like these, it's probably from like the Satanic Panic era called They Sold Their Soul for Rock and Roll. There's all these different things. It's like this very heavy Christian video series about how they can tell when these music artists have sold their souls.
Really? I
and all
that
these, oh my gosh.
I've never seen
and
that.
I always like if I'm heavy into writing, I always keep it on in the background because it is like it's what my people think about me. You know what I mean? Because I was this polished, Bible kid, and now it's like not only do I not do that, like I write horror now, and it's like, oh my gosh, like what is this? And so I like to play off of that a lot, like in how I present myself, because I know what I'm doing, and I know what it is, but I also know what it's not. But horror to me is trauma. Like horror is different ways to speak on trauma, and so the more discomfort and the further people try to push you away from particularly what I'm doing, especially when I'm writing about my upbringing as a Jehovah's Witness. Like, when my horror is about that, the more that people who used to be or are that, the more that it like takes them aback, the more I know that like I'm nailing it, right? Like I know like I'm on topic, I'm on task. And so I feel like most horror is that personal for everybody in a different way. And I feel like that's what scares us. Also, me and Ronnie's lights are like lined up perfect. And I saw this shadow on your screen and I was like, oh, they got me. Like they were right on. I was like, it's all like, but no, it's just, I don't know. I can talk on and on and on about horror. I know y'all.
Oh no, yeah, I'm a big horror. I love it.
Good grief.
But I'm great. But I'm happy. I was gonna say I'm happy that you guys. I think you guys are our first like superhero horror comic on the show. But that's why I love horror genre so much, unlike any other comic genre, because I always tell people that, there's a subgenre for anyone. You could
There's a lot of
have
meat on the bone.
you could have a
Absolutely.
slasher horror, you could have sci-fi horror, you could have a horror story that has a knight in shining armor saving a damsel in distress, and now a superhero horror. It's just there's so much to do in this playground of horror.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I think of all the genre. I think horror is the one you can do different subgenre and it doesn't. It works.
Yeah,
you can mix horror with comedy. You can mix horror with drama.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah,
Killer
yeah.
Clowns from Outer
Anything.
Space,
Yeah.
Or even
So I guess-
even going worse, not Killer Clowns, but Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, another comedy.
I watched that.
That's a rough watch.
recently.
I've seen all of them. That's a rough
I just
one.
saw it all the way.
And then
through
they
for
made
the
it
first
into a
time.
cartoon series.
I do. I actually had a toy. I had a toy of it.
Yeah. That's funny.
They made a toy.
Yeah, they had a toy. That little squeezy
yeah.
toy. The Mad
When
Heads.
the
they
cartoons
made back in
came
the
out,
80s.
yeah.
Yeah, in the
Okay.
90s, like early 90s, like that took off. Like
Yeah. Mhm.
it was never for me, but it took off. Like it was everywhere. I remember kids always had those toys at school. They had stickers, notebooks, like it was all over. But yeah, we've had in the past probably 2.5 months, we've had 3 creators on or 3 creative teams on that all did zombie books, and they were all different. And like of all like the tropes, you would think that zombies has been so saturated over the years, especially with like Walking Dead.
Yeah.
You would think like that is done, but like all 3 of these stories have been so different, and what I've read of all of them has been like fantastic and very different from one another. And
Nice.
it just shows like if you have the drive to tell a story, you can tell any story, and it doesn't
Right on.
matter what exists that is around the same topic, because if it's your story, you'll do fine. Like if it's your story and you believe in it, you'll stick with it till it's exactly how you want it to be. And if you think it's good, it just takes time. Like it'll be good. I firmly believe that.
Absolutely.
Now,
You wanna say something?
I was gonna say we talked about your comic book a little, and then we talked about some other stuff. But I know Chastity, you're less of the talkative type, but I like to ask the female creators on here just because horror, especially in the 80s horror, you had nudity and everything, but growing up in the 80s, you had a lot of the action movies be like everything like male oriented. But before this whole thing, like the feminazis and like the feminine movement, a lot of the 80s horror heroes that were taking out the villains were women, So as a woman, like growing up and seeing these things, like how inspirational was that for you to see that, hey, a woman could kick Freddy's ass, could kick Jason's ass, and Sigourney Weaver killing the shit out of a male alien
Yeah.
with the giant machine. That had to be inspirational.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever thought that women were incapable in any way by watching any type of movie. I've never got that vibe from anything. If anything, even in the more the movies that are more like, like a Bond movie or something like
Mhm.
that, they were always smart. They
Yeah.
weren't stupid. I mean, they always like had a purpose. I mean, I never felt that women were inferior or anything like that.
I watched my wife have 2 babies, like from beginning to end, and I have nothing to say negative about any women in their work. Good grannies.
Ripley though, that is one of the favorites.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Original
smart
badass.
and
Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nancy. I wasn't that big of a fan of Nancy.
I'm a fan of Nancy.
But,
Nancy.
okay.
See, I'm a fan of Alice, but Nancy's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, but Alice had to have powers though. Nancy whipped Fred's ass straight up.
Yeah, that's
She's
true.
smart.
That's true. That's true.
But I forgot what I was gonna say.
What did you say?
I had something I
I'm
was gonna
sorry.
say. I forgot. No. You know what? It'll come back to me if it was meant to be said.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, now we're into like, I don't know if you guys want to talk more about your comic like we haven't talked about before we get into some questions about like just horror in general.
I'm cool with just talking about horror in general right now.
Okay. Gotcha. So you both could take your turns. What would be your favorite horror movie of all time and why?
You go first.
Mine's changed a lot. So I'm just gonna I'll say the one that I've been watching most recently. I love Return of the Living Dead. That's probably not only my favorite zombie movie, but it's probably one of my favorite horror movies just because it's a fun movie. It's very well written. And I think the reason I like Return of the Living Dead is the characters are so likable. It's hard for a horror movie where everybody's likable, and that's just one of the ones. Especially going back watching it now, you appreciate. I like all eras of horror, and like I think especially now there's a lot of good horror coming out.
Mm-hmm.
But that film was very ahead of its time for an 80s movie, in my opinion. Just as far as like the punks and everything, and just the little dialogue, like when they're trying to figure out how to burn the body and stuff. Just that back and forth. Like it's just the little nuances that I appreciate in that. Mm-hmm. So I gotta say, right now, that's probably one of my favorite ones.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Child's Play.
The original.
Yeah, not the remake. I know you don't like.
Well, no, I'm thinking like Bride of Chucky.
Okay.
The Chucky TV show. If you hadn't seen it, it's great. I enjoyed it.
I started. I got to finish it. I was 2 episodes in. I got to go back, and it was interesting. I got to see where we're gonna go with it.
Yeah. Second season comes out in October. So.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's going strong.
Yeah. Well, Child's Play then. I'm gonna go with Child's Play, just because. I mean, Brad Dourif, right? Did I say it right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a million movies. You know what I'm saying? Because but I also like obscure horror too. I'm a big fan, like the more schlocky, like Basket Case. I love Basket.
Oh, Basket Case! Oh my gosh, that's a classic.
I like
a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah, Basket Case. The sequels are okay. 2 and 3 was all right, but that first one, Brain Damage. I love that one.
Oh yeah, Brain Damage.
I'm a big fan of like Italian horror, like Lucio Fulci and all them. I like Demons. Argento. I'm okay with Argento. My favorite Argento film is one nobody really likes. And that's Phenomena, aka Creepers, with Jennifer Connelly and Donald Pleasance. Oh, wow, you're missing out on Basket Case.
Gary, a movie that Gary doesn't know.
Looks like you got homework, Gary.
Yeah, I love Basket Case. Then like Maniac. I love the remakes of the original Maniac. Maniac Cop 2. Actually.
Yeah, Maniac Cop is one of the slashers that people don't talk about a lot.
Yeah, that second one's pretty. The third one was trash, but Maniac Cop 2 was amazing. That ending when he's on fire, you can't beat that.
Remember he was throwing that guy up against those filing cabinets for like 40 minutes. Like I love that. Like
it was awesome, man. That was a good actor. They got to play him with superhero chin. I forgot his name. What else I like? Again,
what don't you like? That's
we've been doing the show for 2 years, and we had our 2-year anniversary. We brought on like different creators. I think we had like 8 people, 10 people on the show at once. And on the show here, we're a big John Carpenter's The Thing fan. Like
I am. I it's at the point now. I think that's just like a gift. You can't be a horror fan. I like The Thing.
Right? Just not just that, but just the storyline. And like you said, with that movie, everyone has like a favorite character or a character that they didn't want to see die.
And that movie just holds up, man. Like I was looking I watch it every so often. Every few years I go back and watch the thing.
Every few months you go back.
Yeah, I mean, the older I've gotten, I've watched it more lately. For some, I guess, it's funny. The older you get, you appreciate the things differently.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's, you look at all the practical effects and like, it's interesting. That movie was a bomb when it came out back in the early days. You know, but it just showed. I mean, it took years for that movie to, you know, critics hated it. Like people, it was like, damn, it sucks, man. This movie's a masterpiece. You know, I mean, people can only dream to see get a movie like this made again.
Absolutely. That was one of the last Carpenter movies that I saw. Like, I saw that movie last year for the first time.
Really?
But
man,
I grew up like with all these movies that I loved. Like Prince of Darkness is one of those, like one of the first religious horror movies that I ever saw. You know, watching in the laundromat. Big Trouble in Little China. I love Big Trouble in Little China. I love They Live as a kid. And I loved all these movies, but I didn't realize that these were all John Carpenter movies. I just knew these were all movies that I like. But now it's like, I know like John Carpenter is kind of like a certificate of authenticity. If you see a movie that John Carpenter made, like you can watch it and like have confidence that you're going to enjoy it or enjoy something about it.
He's master horror, hands down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like there's even somebody said after Nope came out, I haven't seen Nope yet, but somebody said,
oh, it's good. I enjoyed it.
Somebody, you saw it? Yeah. Somebody said, is it time to crown Jordan Peele as the king of horror movies? And Jordan Peele responded on Twitter. He's like, sir, I will not let you disrespect John Carpenter that way. And I'm like, if you know, you know. Like,
right.
Besides
you can't
writer and director, he's a composer. The iconic, as soon as Halloween plays, everybody knows where that song is from.
Exactly. But I look at filmography, pretty much, I mean, even like his worst things, you know, later on, like, are still watchable. But, you know, overall, the guy just, the good always bad. I mean, he's made so many iconic films that we, to this day, people are biting on. You know, the rip off. I mean, he's probably the most imitated director, I think, of all time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because he nailed it. Like, he nailed the mood for the scenes. He
created a genre. You know, in my opinion.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
What's that one where it was all the shorts in one movie?
That body bags, I think it was, or something.
Yeah, with the guy from Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, Body Bags. Yeah, like
Showtime
show.
I liked that.
Even Master of the Horror, his what is it? Pro-Life and Cigarette Burns. Those were good. He did those. Not a big. Y'all may disagree. I'm not a big Wes Craven fan. He was okay. You know, of course, he made Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream, but I know I wasn't a big fan of Super Rainbow. Hills Have Eyes is okay. Last House on the Left, I think it's a little it's overrated in my opinion. I'll be the first to say.
I mean, we'll get into the next question. I mean, and Freddy Krueger is my favorite slasher, so that's who we're going to go into next. But I agree with you. If it was one of those things, John Carpenter would definitely be number one compared to Wes Craven. Wes Craven would definitely be on the bottom of the list. But who would be your favorite? Like, it even doesn't have to be like 80s, but who is your favorite horror slasher of all time and why?
Well, Jason Voorhees is my favorite.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, he's not, Jason kind of, he's transcended a lot of things. And out of all the slashers, if we really look at all the slashers in their canon and stuff, he's had the craziest transition over the whole. Because he's like he's like the only killer. He wasn't in the first movie about the mom. They literally went from who did it, mom being the killer, to okay, for some reason he's alive in part 2. Potato Sack, the iconic hockey mask, to actually dying in the 4th movie, being replaced with an impersonator part 5, coming back from the dead, ball of lightning, and which is pretty much the definitive Jason now, where he's just unkillable. Yeah. He's a force of nature. And I like that. You know,
he's the new Universal Frankenstein in a way, if you think about it.
Because Jason's almost an anti-hero. He's not really. Is Jason evil? Is my question. Is he evil?
I think he's innocent. Like,
you know, is he? Because he doesn't.
He was a kid.
You know, he doesn't. He only messes people that goes to the camp. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
And that's understandable. You know, maybe why I just love Freddy Krueger so much. because it's the whole idea that he could literally create anything on the top of his head to come true. Like one of my favorite kills of all time would have been in Dream Master, where he turns that girl into a cockroach and
That was
crushes
pretty
her in the
good.
box. You know, just the idea of like any of your worst fears come to life, he could make them come into reality. So it's
I
more
agree.
of a creative perspective that I like about Freddy.
I like Freddy a lot. I don't like what he became too friendly. I don't like how he became too commercial. He is a child molester murderer, and yet they made him into like this plush toy you buy at Toys R Us. Like, come on, guys. Like, no, no, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here? Like, no, I mean, he was supposed to be the guy you love to hate. You know, and again, I like him. I just don't like he became too much of like a house. You know, I don't know. He became the cool guy. Like, no, this is a bad person. And like, what are we doing?
Right. Right.
Well, you could see that especially when the first movie came out towards the end. That's like, okay, now you have Chucky and all these other horror movies that are introducing more comedy, and it's like we have to find a way to make Freddy into that. And I think that started happening when Dream Master came out.
It did.
And that's when I saw Dream Master. Not Dream Master was probably my favorite one, just because maybe the idea, the classic, the first one, you can't beat that.
No.
But like outside of the classic, the third one probably be my favorite. Just the idea of like, hey, you have a dream power and you could use that in your dreams. I thought that was a cool concept. And then him saying, you know, welcome to prime time, bitch. He made that on the whim, you know. So there's a lot of iconic things about Dream Master, why it brought in a brand new crowd. But with the first one, when she's run up the stairs and her feet is sinking into like the stairs because it's quicksand, man, crazy stuff. But what about you, Chastity? What's your favorite slasher of all time?
You know, I've been sitting here trying to think. And as far as like regular slashers, I would have to go with Jason too. But because of you, I kind of like how obsessive the Driller Killer is. The Slumber Party Massacre Killer.
What's his name? Russ Thorne. That is what they actually called him.
Yeah.
That was his name.
And then, of course, that sequel that you made me watch, where the drill
the rock and roll guy.
With the rock and roll guy.
That movie is amazing. Okay, that movie is amazing.
And the thing is, the guy actually sung the whole song himself. Like,
he's like a millionaire. He's like a rich guy. The guy when Joe Bob Briggs he was talking about. Like that was like very.
Rich. Joe Bob Briggs. Man, I could talk with you for a long time. Like just going on USA and watching Joe Bob Briggs show horror movies and just talk about that stuff. Oh man.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
That's look.
Yeah, I got my pajama with Joe Bob Briggs.
He has his Joe Bob Briggs pajama pants on.
Joe Bob.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you would say Slumber Party Massacre? I mean, that's a great series there.
As far as like killers, because he was just like, he was so obsessed. Like I could see that being a real person.
Yeah,
that's what makes it scary.
You didn't know much about him either.
Yeah. It was just kind of this guy hiding out.
He just randomly just
watching people. Like, like that could be real. But as far as like iconic slashers, I'd have to go with Jason too, just because. I mean, I kind of feel for him.
I mean, you could argue. A lot of people say he's a clone, like he's a rip-off of Michael Myers. But I think at one point he was. I think he was at one point. But once he became the undead, unkillable Jason, he became his own thing. I think that's really what made him unique.
Yeah. That's a hard question.
All these characters can come back, can like completely change with a different creative team, and it can be like the best thing ever again. You know, like Freddy doesn't have to be, well, not Freddy, but more Jason and Michael Myers, because they're like the two masked guys. Yeah. You know, like those stories can be told and retold and reshaped and like tweaked. So where like you said, like they can be clones or they can be pretty much polar opposite.
But the whole satanic ritual with Michael Myers, that just you know, wasn't a
we
fan
do a
of
whole
that.
video on that. I got my issues with the Halloween franchise.
Yeah.
They're finally getting they're fixing it. I just like these last two. I'm happy with those.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, you know, we all love horror here, but there's a lot of great horror movies coming out. But I always like to ask because, you know, even being a horror creator, is there a limit that you won't go, like with your story?
Yeah, you know.
I don't hurt animals.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
And see, that's
anything.
funny. I see memes like that. It's like if you see a like a jackass jock who's like a really big bully, you want to see that person die, but oh, don't hurt the dog. And then
Yeah,
you
don't
watch the
hurt
thing,
the
it's like kill the
dog.
dog.
Pretty much for us, anything just harming children or animals, I'm not really cool with all that.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
That's tough.
Sexual violence, we don't really. That's another one we don't really do unless it. I mean, there's it's hinted at certain points in our story, at certain parts, but we don't. It's never exploited. Like you'll never see us do like I spit on your grave type thing, anything like that. We just don't. I just don't feel it's necessary. But
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
because even though I'm a super fan of horror, like I
Mhm.
I was like not even in double digits watching horror, but it's one of those things people will be like, oh, but the '80s had it. No, the '80s horror compared to some of this torture porn horror, I just not a big fan of the torture porn.
Right.
And I know some people are like love those movies, but I just don't like the human centipede. I don't. It's just nasty.
I was okay with the first one. I was done with the second one. When they had like the lady step on the baby's head, you know what? Okay, I don't. What the hell is this? Like, like, come on now.
It's not even scary. Like, it's a whole other thing. Like,
It's just mean.
not my thing.
Well, he was trying. Like I said, I mean, we got to start trying to shock people because that's not scary. Like, that's not scary. This is offensive. And I mean, no, I can say, but it's just like, no, that's not. It's not even entertaining. I don't want to watch this shit. Like,
right? Yeah.
But that's why you have great movies like Nope and Get Out, who he's showing that, hey, we could go back to the genre where you don't have to use a lot of gore to have that horror factor. You have like the shock appeal. You have the stuff that's building up to the big event where you're going to gasp like, oh man, I didn't see that coming.
Mm-hmm. So I can see Nope. I ain't watched it yet.
I haven't either. We make roller coasters, but there's no fun in the roller coaster when you say, and at this part, I'm just gonna cut the track off.
Right? Yeah.
Like no, yeah, I don't want to ride this. So no, I love any creative horror, and if somebody is making creative horror, I'll listen to what they have to say. But if it's just 15 Mortal Kombat fatalities for no other reason than putting somebody in a spike pit with detail, that doesn't really make it to my radar.
Black Phone was really good. We just watched that over the weekend.
Oh, I hadn't
that's
seen that,
streaming now. I gotta check that out. I know I can get it in Redbox too now, so I gotta check that one out.
A+ movie. A+.
Okay,
I was actually
glad to hear.
I was impressed. Wow, it was definitely a throwback. Like, a lot of movies try to do the retro look. This was one of the few that actually felt like it was a '70s movie to me. And just the color grade. It's just a really good movie, man. You know what I'm saying? It won't. And it's one movie. It's not set up no sequel, no. It's just a one and done.
This movie.
Yeah,
that's refreshing.
It is. You're like a heart. You will appreciate it.
All right.
Awesome.
I'll definitely check it out.
I think it's free on
Peacock.
Peacock?
Yeah, Peacock. They
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah, pretty much like all the Universal horror movies that are like out is on Peacock, I think.
Yeah, because we still have some we gotta watch, but
So with Universal movies, back to the classics before we end the show, who would be your favorite Universal monster of all time and why?
Wolfman.
Nice.
I love werewolves, so Wolfman and probably Creature from Black Lagoon. He's my second. I just like monsters.
I was gonna say just based off design, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, most people like Creature from Black Lagoon.
Pretty iconic design. Like,
see, I'm a fan of Frankenstein just because it's not just a horror movie, but it's a tragedy.
Yeah, I do like Frankenstein.
Dracula's big evil, right? Like Dracula, like he is like the devil of the Universal universe.
Oh yeah.
So like there's so much you can do. And so like I dig Dracula. again, okay, so I hate sounding like I'm like this horror culture novice, but I absorb it different because I recognize like there are things that I missed out on the height of these iconic things. So I'll go and I'll seek out horror if Ronnie tells me to watch it, or if Gary tells me to watch it, or if like people that I meet, like now knowing that I wanted to see Black Phone and you say it's really good, I'll definitely check it out now. But I kind of go like I like to feel my way around because that's also kind of part of what we do, right? Like it's the bucket of noodles that you touch blindfolded and you don't know exactly what it is. You know, is it worms? Is it guts? Like that's how I've kind of enjoyed, because you know I didn't really get into it until I was in my late 30s. You know, and I was writing it and I didn't really know where it landed. So like the Universal stuff, like I checked out Universal monster books when I was a kid in the school library, but I didn't really have like this string of like really ever enjoying those movies until recently. Like, so I'll go like we did review Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein, and like that's my favorite version of Frankenstein because it humanized them. But I love writing the bad guys ever since Empire Strikes Back, like where the bad guys won the whole movie.
Yeah,
it's fun. And so no, it's like if we're talking horror, like I think that Dracula is the ultimate. I don't write a lot of vampires, but Dracula is he's the Superman of horror villains.
He's iconic. He's definitely iconic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
What horror movie scared you the most?
Blair Witch Project, with no question.
Okay.
For when I saw it, it's not the scariest movie I've ever seen, but it got the most reaction out of me. I watched a lot of 3 o'clock in the morning Ricky Lake show because I wasn't sleeping after I went and saw Blair Witch Project. But I went and saw it again. I saw it twice in the movies.
Me, as a kid, the one, and it's not even like, it's funny because I've seen Freddy, I've seen other, I froze up. There he goes. I've seen Freddy. I saw all these other horror slashers. They didn't really scare me, not even Jason or Michael. But the one thing that scared me as a kid was the whole alien autopsy scene in Fire in the Sky. That scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch that. I actually haven't.
No, you won't see that. She don't like alien stuff. Nah, that one's pretty.
No, I love alien stuff.
No, but like where he's on the table.
Yeah, and they got that thing with a sheet over him, and
that sheet where it tightens up.
That's the scene, yeah.
And then just that scene. I don't know. It was just very like the lightning was going outside. It was raining, and then these creatures didn't talk at all. You were just hearing him scream, and then you just saw all the stuff that we're doing to him.
I think it's like
just
the
really.
That's
the one based on the true story, though, right?
Yes.
About the guy, right?
And that's yeah.
What scared you? What movie scared you the most?
What movie scared me the most? Probably The Exorcist. I had a really hard time sleeping with the light off for a really long time because I thought those faces were gonna pop up in the dark.
So for me as a kid, Texas Chainsaw Massacre scared me as a kid because it was very real.
Okay, yeah.
But even that, the movie that disturbed me the most now, and I like this movie a lot, I gotta go Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Okay.
And I tell you, the one scene in that movie, okay, well, you seen it, right? Like spend the whole time with the serial killer. The one scene that always bothers me is the home invasion scene because that was a little too real for me. Like how these guys live into this house and just killed his family. You know, they watched it on tape. I don't know, just that. I don't know. That was just that to me is real horror. You know what I'm saying? Just somebody invading your house and you can't. But
that's
do
what's so great. If you could get a story that's hits home that people could relate to, that's what's going to make it iconic, not just like the way the killer looks.
Right, exactly. Again, like the real stuff, the more real it is, the more it freaks me out. Just even now, just especially getting older now, I don't know.
That's awesome. You got anything else to ask Jason?
I'm good, man. Like if I don't stop, I won't stop. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. I hope
Yeah,
we
for
get
sure.
to talk more at some point soon.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
I
always down to talk
really
about horror.
enjoyed.
Thank you for having
Yeah.
us on.
Not a problem. You know, let us know when, you know, you get done with the third book. And like we say to anyone on the show, if you ever like have a topic that we haven't covered yet, or we just want to talk about horror, because sometimes we don't do interviews or do book reviews, but we just want to talk a broad topic like vampires, werewolves, and stuff like that. You're more than welcome to come on and talk horror with us.
Heck yeah, I like that. You know, because I've been wanting to do more horror, just talk to more horror people about horror stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because that's an endless topic. We could talk about that all the time. So right on, yeah, we'll keep in touch with that, man. Definitely.
Yeah,
also, Chris, we have very similar playlists for our music too. So we could definitely jam out one day and just have like a writers jam session if y'all want to. I'd love that.
Yeah. I like that.
All right. Well, thank you everyone watching on YouTube and Twitch. Anyone watching in the after show. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Yeah.
Later.
Did you cut us off, Ronnie?
No, not yet. Not yet. Nope.
You guys can go to Kickstarter and get notified for the launch of Rabbit's Badass Song number 3.
Oh, yeah.
So
thank you. I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, yeah. So yeah, I think it's a pretty valid story. I can't wait to see the universe unfold.
The link's in the
more.
description.
It's going to be an awesome story.
I think I got all your links, your individual Instagrams too.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
All right. Y'all be good.
Later.